Now we get back to Azure Monitor, right? Which is the monitoring part. तो जब आप मॉनिटरिंग करते हो किसी भी सिस्टम की क्लाउड के ऊपर ऑन प्रेमिसेस के ऊपर you have certain what we call ideas or certain thoughts or certain goals in mind, right? First of all, it is to gather the data, all of it, to see what is going on, right? This is one of the most fundamental things, right? Then you need granularity and you need कि आपने किस लेवल तक डेटा पकड़ना है. For example, who did what. Azure के ऊपर, if you go to Azure for example, मैंने आप लोगों को बताया था कि in Azure you can basically so I can go into subscription, add subscription level. ये मैंने आपको बताया था यहाँ पे subscription monitoring, right? Subscription level के ऊपर I can see who did what, right? By default ये आपको 6 hours का बताता है. You can pick for example last 2 weeks, whatever, right? I can go last 24 hours. Sorry. So you can see that I was able to see at the subscription level who did what. This is what we call activity log. So this is when they talk about subscription monitoring, they can do this one, right? Sorry. So this tells you, for example, मैंने काफ़ी चीज़ें delete की थी इसमें से. You can see I did many different things over this thing. Okay. Something pass, something fails, various different things, right? This is at the subscription level. I can do something at the resource group level as well. I can filter these things, right? If I go back, for example, over here, I can go back, activity log, and I can say, for example, right? Now it will filter everything that I've done in this resource group with any of the resources, right? And now you got the idea that I can go another level down and तो ये इस resource group के ऊपर किया हुआ मैंने सारा काम, ठीक है? And then for example at the resource group, and then I can do at the specific resource level. ये resource group था. If I go into the resource group, I can look at the overview, look at all those things, और किसी भी चीज़ के अंदर जाके I can go and I can take a look on. तो ये 3-4 चीज़ें अब देखोगे हर जगह है. Overview, activity log, tags, diagnostics, access control. It is everywhere. Right. Also, last but not least, guest OS monitoring. मैंने आपको बताया था यहाँ पे, if I go over any virtual machine, right? Virtual machine, and if I go over virtual machine, I can basically, for example, if I look at it, I can enable what we call change tracking. Right? So, I mean, these are all part of possible solutions, right? So it tells you that certain things, but anyway, all the changes that are happening inside the virtual machine, inside, आप इसको track कर सकते हो, ठीक है? So you can do these kind of things. So again, सारा का सारा डेटा यहाँ पे जाता है in the data platform, इनका जो analytics system है, and then you can analyze, right? और ये हमारा basically, if you look at it, if I go into this one, यहाँ पे if you can look at it, monitoring के अंदर logs, you see very similar icons over here as well, right? ये logs का metrics explorer and all these things, right? So if I go into logs, enable नहीं हुई यहाँ पे. I think I need to start the VM. Anyway, I can enable this one and I can do that. I can also look at the metrics, right? and I can see, for example, CPUs, disk, many different things, network monitoring. I can create dashboards out of these things, right? All of these things. You can see the amount of information and metrics it captures, right? तो जितनी आप चीज़ें एक्स्ट्रा पकड़ोगे, जितनी चीज़ें आप एक्स्ट्रा करोगे, it will consume more and more storage, and it will cost you more, right? So जिस चीज़ को चाहिए आपको, you can keep it, and these things is provided to you, I think, for 30 days. So you need to be very clear. हमें metrics चाहिए नहीं होते ज़्यादा देर के लिए, because अगर if everything is okay, we don't need them, but generally speaking we need them for the purpose of when we have a performance issue, right? So we don't need to keep them for long periods of time, right? We don't need to accumulate them and keep them. So first of all, we need to understand what metrics are, right? किसी भी चीज़ के metrics. So metrics is basically some number associated with some aspect of the system, right? At a specific point in time. That means मैं कह सकता हूँ कल 3 बजे what was the CPU usage? What was the percentage of the CPU usage? Yesterday at 3 p.m. Right? Somebody can say, because what we need to do is we try to correlate. Application guys can say, okay, we are having problem. So what we try to ask is, when do you have problem, under what circumstances, and based on that information, what we try to do is we try to look at the system metrics, right? Just now, for example, if I'm having problem in my system, in my laptop, I will look at the task manager, right, at any given time. Nice thing about metrics is they are saved, and I can go back and I can take a look and I can query them, right? That's what Azure is giving us. A lot of these enterprise systems that gives you all this data and information, they give you all of that stuff. They give you accumulate. I mean, you're paying for the services as part of your subscription, right? So just now, for example, if I go back, if I say task manager, right? If you look at the task manager, let me just open it up, right? So in the task manager, if I go into performance, so I'm getting almost near real-time data, right? From my CPU, from my GPU, from my Ethernet, everything, right? It's a very thin system that operating system vendor like Microsoft, they have put in there, so it doesn't affect your CPU too much to accumulate, but you can see all the system performance and everything, right? Over here. So very similarly, वहाँ पे this is all being saved as well for you guys for at least I think 30 days, and I think you can save it for larger periods of time if you want, right? So this is what they're doing. Right. Then उसके बाद what happens is you have log analytics, right? And उसके अंदर workspace होती है, and then you have different kind of data, और उसकी हर एक की different properties होती हैं. For example, website है, उसका data आ रहा है, maybe उसकी tracking information will have different things. For web server, it will have different attributes, right? So it will save it in different way, and various different things, right? उनके हर एक के अपने properties हैं different types की, right? So you can combine all of that, you can do all of this stuff, right? तो यहाँ पे आपकी जो logs आ रही हैं, you have different kind of stuff coming, right? और उसकी basis के ऊपर you can do queries, you can do alerts उसी data के ऊपर, and you can run some services, you can get deeper insights. आप dashboard बना लो, आप workbooks बना लो, जिस तरह Jupyter की workbooks होती हैं. You can do all of that kind of stuff using this kind of thing. You can do a lot of good analysis on these kind of data, right? But the idea is you have deep visibility into these things, right? So आपकी activity log, which we just saw, for example, this is one of them. Let's see. तो आप जब monitoring में जाओगे, right? Let me see something else as well. I want to see यहाँ पे. If I do this, for example, diagnostics, right? Diagnostic setting. Right? It is telling you that it collects host level metrics, CPU, disk, network, right? It can do all of this stuff. What kind of storage account दे दो मुझे? Let me see this one, right? I need to probably have it running, or it needs to be in the same region. Yeah, it says you cannot do this if VM is not running, right? So it collects all of those things. Then you have boot diagnostics, right? These, yeah, up उसके लिए भी हैं, right? If I go into settings over here, and you can say it'll automatically manage storage account, right? I don't want to go into the details of this one, but it's you don't have to worry about providing the storage account. It will manage it by itself, right? ये अब देखो आपको VM का screenshot दिखा रहा है every certain few minutes, right? What is going on in this one, right? So it's very nice. You have all sort of different diagnostics available on this one, right? Performance and various different things. So a lot of stuff is available for you to view and to save and to analyze. Okay? ये है basically application logs, diagnostic logs, and activity logs. All this stuff, right, is over here. Now, हम जो logs लेते हैं, data is quite a bit, right? Data is quite a bit. So what we try to do is we need to be able to analyze. इसके लिए we have what we call log analytics. So if you look at it, right, log analytics workspaces. Then I can create a workspace. It's like a big data system essentially that allows you to do all of that stuff, right? Let me see. For example, I can say WKS log analytics. Right? So it depends on the volume of data and how long it is retained. This is how it is built, right? And it can grow very, very quickly. And there are ways to cap this one, and I will show you in a second, right? And you want to be able to do that. कि आप data को आप इसको कहो कि don't save more than this. Sometimes you have needs for certain things. तो हम क्या करते हैं? We create different workspaces. Critical systems के लिए we separate it ताकि उसके अंदर we keep the data. Data is not too much, but we keep it for longer periods of time, right? So if you look at it over here, you can see data retention, right? By default, okay, 31 days is giving. If you start doing more, right, and it is for 2 years, you can keep it, not more than that. अगर आपने करना, you need to take it out from here and save it somewhere else, right? You can do the data retention. So generally, in systems का हमें ज़्यादा चाहिए होता है, we create a separate workspace and do those kind of things, right? And you can see that price is 3.29 a gigabyte, right? And it's not about, for example, the data. Is the whole analytics engine for which you get this kind of thing, right? That you're able to analyze and do these kind of things, right? So it's not very cheap, but I mean, you can control the cost, right? You can do daily cap, right? After daily cap, I need this much data per day, right? So you can control the cost. This was a very much needed and requested feature actually, right? And you can hook up this one to insights that give you detailed, for example, analysis and workbooks on this one, right? This is a workspace, right? And based on this, I'll show you. There is nothing. Maybe next time मैं इसमें थोड़ा सा data डाल के ना I'll show you. And now, for example, you can go into any VM. Well, let me start something just to show you. So idea is for any activity I want to be able to find out. For any change happening inside the VM, I want to be able to find out. I want to be able to analyze and the data using tools because data is too much. I want to filter, analyze, create dashboards, right? And then I want to create alerts based on this data, right? So I can do analyze data with Power BI. For example, this is just one of the visualization reporting tools, right? यहाँ पे I can filter automatically subscription, time, event severity, all of these things. This is very similar to what we do in Windows when we do event viewer. Okay, yeah, खुद भी you should play around with this event viewer से where it tells you, for example, very similar stuff जो यहाँ पे हो रहा है आपके operating system पे भी, right? If you go over here, आप देख सकते हो what is happening. In the application log, there's all kind of different logs happening over here, right? So they write the data. फिर यहाँ पे आप सारी filtering कर सकते हो उसकी. It's still coming up. You can see the amount number of events over here, right? और यहाँ पे you can see. So this is the first troubleshooting tool that we use in Windows when we try to find out what is happening inside Windows with the applications or anything. We go into event viewer. It has lots of very good stuff for us to troubleshoot and figure out stuff, right? अब जिस तरह for example यहाँ पे चीज़ें आई हुई हैं. I can say, for example, I want to look at critical and error and warnings only. I don't want to go look at the good messages, right? So now you can see I'm getting errors and warnings only, right? I can also, look at, for example, uh, let's see, event source. कहाँ से आ रहा है data, for example, which is the source, which system is the source of this stuff, right? I can filter with that one as well. So I can do those kind of things, right? And same thing for the security as well, right? And I can say over here, filter current log. I want to see, for example, let me see, critical error warning, and I want to see, for example, let me see, audit failure, for example. I want to look at these things only, right? Or something else got selected. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Start maybe keyword. इसको मैं कहूँ audit failure. I want to see keywords are audit failure, so it should be okay. Audit failure. Achha, it is audit failure, right? We can see various different things. For example, you're getting this one, right? So very similar stuff is available to you. आपको यहाँ पे you can add different filters. कौन सी category है, subscription, various different things you can set it up. Okay. और उसके बाद you can download as CSV, right? If you want to analyze it yourself, right? And you can create pin current filters. For example, मैंने filter बना लिया, I can pin them. So every time I come, I see the same thing, right? It's kind of and you can play with these things in the environment as well, okay, if you want to. Now what we want to look at, आपने respond किस तरह करना है. हमने data तो collect कर लिया. How do we respond? So how do we find out? हमने सारा collect कर लिया. We have different ways to collect. We have different places to collect. We have different types of data to collect, right? Then what? So then what we want to do is we want to be able to alert, right? Uh, हमने alert करना है, and then alerting can be very different. मैं कहता हूँ मेरी ये group है of these people, they want SMS. Maybe they are the group, Active Directory group, which has people which are on night duty. They need SMS. In the other group, which are morning group, maybe they will get emails, right? ये मैं Active Directory groups बना दूंगा, उसमें लोग डाल दूंगा, right? I'll just give these guys the group over here and configure them, right? So this is what we do quite a bit, right? How do we separate these people? How do you separate notification for different type of people, different group of people? Okay. So now we have Azure resources. ये हमारी logs हैं. All the resources, इनकी ये telemetry है, इसमें से data आ रहा है. अब now हमारी जो alerting engine है, Azure Monitor की जो alert system है, it starts looking at the data because we have given it certain criteria. So based on that, उसने criteria देखने and then it's going to do certain things, right? So for example, which resource? For example, I can say, please look at this resource, VM1 for example. Signal क्या है उसका? CPU utilization. और condition क्या है? CPU greater than certain percentage. So when this is a rule. When these conditions are met, it will fire an alert. When the alert gets fired, it will say what to do. Notify, there's active action groups. You can notify someone, you can invoke certain action, right? Call someone, SMS, email, run some program, run something, right? You can do various different things, right? So action group is you're grouping different actions based on different people, and you can do that, right? So it gives you extreme flexibility to be able to set up alerts and then fire those alerts and be able to give different kinds of alerts to different kind of people. Okay, so it's very, very flexible system of alerting, monitoring, and then alerting. Okay? So you can imagine the reason it costs some money is essentially, right, it has to monitor, look at everything coming, make sure these things are signals, run the rules and make sure, right, and do all the alerting. So very, very sophisticated system. Imagine this thing working for hundreds and thousands of customers in every data center across all the data, right? So alert rules, essentially what we just saw, resources, क्या चीज कंबाइन हो रही है? रिसोर्स, यहाँ से डेटा आ रहा है, सिग्नल, कौन सा सिग्नल है, राइट, एंड द कंडीशन, ये हमने अभी जो पढ़ा है यहाँ पर, राइट, दीज थिंग्स, सिग्नल, कंडीशंस एंड द रिसोर्स, राइट. दिस इज बेसिकली व्हाट दे आर सेइंग. ये हमारे एक्शन ग्रुप है, राइट, व्हाट वी जस्ट सॉ, एंड आई कैन से ईमेल, SMS, right? And I can say, for example, execute a runbook. Runbook is nothing but it can be composed of PowerShell or Python commands, whatever it is, right? To do something, do some actions. Azure function, we saw this one as well, right? Azure function, we can set up Azure function and we can execute, we can have it execute. हमने कहा था Azure functions get triggered, right? This is precisely what it is. That it's going to trigger this Azure function which will do something. Lot of times customers say we have our own system of alerting and mechanism, please put it somewhere. So since the data is coming quite a bit, we can put it in the event hub. It's like a streaming service. You put the events over there and somebody can pick it up, right? So a lot of third party companies who are using third-party monitoring tools, they integrate with Azure Event Hub and of course AWS something else to be able to pick these events and do something. ऑन प्रेमिस उनके सिस्टम चल रहा है, उन्हें हमने वही यूज करना है। आप सारा का सारा अपना जो है डेटा पुट इट ऑन द इवेंट हब, विल रीड इट फ्रॉम ओवर देयर। The IT service management, logic app, it's like a workflow, and so on and so forth, right? So you have pretty much every possible thing available to you to execute and do, right? If you need to, when you want something to be alerted. So यहाँ पे मैंने ये इसको किया था, इसको ऑन किया था मैंने इसको VM को, go into logs, and now it is let's enable it, okay? ये किस उसके अंदर है? Let me see. I think it needs to be in the same place as which one? We north के अंदर ही थी वो. Why it's not giving me? East US. So let me see something else. I'll go into, for example, let me see diagnostic settings. I just want to see if I go into workspaces, and I go into this one, and I go into, for example, data source. You can add basically sorry. So I can say I want to pick this VM. मेन चीज़ है कि मैंने उसका लॉग एनालिटिक्स वर्कस्पेस बनाई है, एंड फ्रॉम हेयर आई एडेड द वर्चुअल मशीन, आई पिक द वर्चुअल मशीन्स ओवर हेयर, राइट? वो कह रहे अपने इसमें से क्या चीज़ देनी है, आई हैव परफॉर्मेंस काउंटर्स भी हैं, सारी चीज़ें पकड़ रहा हूँ मैं, राइट? एंड दिस इज़ द एंड लेट मी सी व्हाट एल्स इज देयर, विंडोज इवेंट लॉग्स अभी जो मैंने देखी थी, राइट? And I can pick, for example, all these, what kind of messages जो भी मैंने दिखाई थी वहाँ से it will, I can pick only the failures, right? ये मैंने अभी बनाई है वर्क स्पेस, मैं कह रहा हूँ आप वहाँ से इवेंट्स लेके put them everything over here, right? Again, no need to go into all the details. Main चीज़ है मैंने वहाँ से log select किए and you can see I can pick and choose. All the information stuff you don't need to pick, okay? That is an important point. Let me just create this one. Now, for example, what I can do is in this one, this is the important part, like view logs, right? And here's the query language, right? इसका पूरा कोर्स है, इट्स अ वेरी नाइस वन क्वेरी लैंग्वेज जो है इसके अंदर इसका मैंने बताया था कस्टो क्वेरी लैंग्वेज राइट KQL ये माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने बनाई थी ये वाली इट्स वेरी वेरी नाइस टू लुक एट इट आई वुड हाईली recommend right let me see where is the chat it's here right ये course है इसका पूरा and it's a very nice one right. This is based on, for example, KQL. ये Microsoft ने language बनाई थी for this one, and it has various different. You can take a look, right? Custom query language. Right. So if we go back over here, if I go back, I'll just show you some of the queries which are built in, right? I will stop these. So queries hub, for example, इन्होंने आपको बना के आपको दी हुई है कहीं पे सारी. We look at the from the virtual machine perspective, right? What data is being collected, free disk space, reported errors, many different things, right? There's a query behind the scenes, right? Let's take a look at activity from IP. Query क्या है? Query is I think the query is not वो भी log keys की जो वो data है networking का it is not there, right? So it can give you these kind of errors. Let's go back. So अभी it hasn't collected any data. Let's see query क्या थी, right? You can see कि इसके अंदर it's giving you all the queries. So this is how you write query. Go to this table, right? Go to this table and do the where clause on that one, right? Go to this table, community security log. So this is how it tells you that you can go to specific table, then you have I think way to do the joins and all those things as well. Databases की भी हैं and various different things, right? So let's go back to our virtual machine and see if we can do something else on this one. अभी actually data collection शुरू किया, so it takes a little bit of time for this one. Right. So you can see how the queries are written, right? वो पहले जो टेबल है उसका उसके अंदर और अगर वो डेटा नहीं आया वो टेबल इज नॉट really created in the logs, right? So it's a normal thing. So there is nothing basically. It takes a little bit of time to start getting into there, right? But anyway, you can see the kind of queries you write. You can pretty much you are adding various different filters, and it does. So it's a behind the scenes a very massive big data system that is powering this one. ये हमने वर्कस्पेस बनाई थी अभी, राइट? तो वर्कस्पेस इज एसेंशियली इट्स अ कंटेनर, राइट? यहाँ पे डेटा कलेक्ट होता है, एग्रीगेट हो रहा है, एनालाइज हो रहा है, एंड फ्रॉम देयर वी प्रेजेंट, राइट? और ये मैंने बताया था यू कैन हैव डिफरेंट वर्क स्पेसेस टू कलेक्ट डेटा. एक हमारा है जहाँ पे वी आर डूइंग ऑल द क्रिटिकल एरर्स ओनली एंड वी आर कीपिंग देम फॉर मे बी 90 days. हमारा कहीं किसी वर्क स्पेस सिक्योरिटी डेटा जा रहा है and we want to keep it for 2 years or 1 year, right? We want to keep everything there. But normal logs, you want to keep it 30 days or 60 days at the most, right? So that's why we want to create separate log analytics workspaces and put different data at different places, right? ये थी अभी हमने अभी query की थी, right? Based on KQL. And you can get download as Excel, and you can download it, connect with Power BI for further analysis and presentation as well, right? So you can see कि हर different चीज के different tables get created, and this is how you do, right? कौन सा event था, event को किस तरह filter करना है आपने, आपने उसको किस तरह उसको वो करना है, व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट वेयर क्लॉजेस, आपने समराइज ग्रुप बाय करना है टॉप 10 वट एवर, वेरी सिमिलर टू सीक्वल बट अ डिफरेंट वे ऑफ राइटिंग क्वेरी. दिस इज व्हाट दे हैव डन, राइट. दिस इज एग्जैक्टली द सिंटेक्स यू विल राइट. ये लिखा मैंने दो तीन क्वेरीज आपको दी हैं, एंड दीज बार्स एंड ऑल दैट, राइट. ये जो हम यहाँ पे भी देख रहे हैं, राइट, इन द real world we are doing this thing as well. So maybe by tomorrow we'll have something, or maybe in the next 5-10 minutes we will have something. Right. So this is, for example, one of the examples and one of the design part of this one, right? आपकी virtual machine है, and I want to be able to, for example, do different things, trigger the alert if it gets deleted or whatever, right? I can do various different things, for example. Anyway, just to sum this up, right? इसके अंदर, right? Monitoring हम क्यों कर रहे हैं, क्या चीज़ें हैं, what is the language, right? How the language is written, how the language is structured, and let me just see the important parts of this one, right? And log analytics is this one. Actions, rules, action groups. ये दो तीन चीजें हैं in this one, and the philosophy, right? This is a very important slide to understand the architecture, right? That we get all these things, and then alert rules, fired alerts, and action. This is the important thing, gist of this whole thing, right? Or यहाँ पे you can do, for example, in these logs, this is the alerting engine, and these logs we do the KQL. Okay, so if you want to do something, create dashboards, export, and all that, we do our queries over here, right? And then this is Microsoft own mechanism. They charge you something for this kind of thing, right? I think it's not very expensive. I think 15-20 cents or something like that for each alert or each alert rule, right? It's pretty cheap. Or each time it gets fired, something like that, right? So this is the incident response, and we need to understand the various different, for example, event logs, what are the metrics, and those kind of things, right? And how do we monitor? So 4 or 5 main things that we want to look at it, okay? So that's about it, inshallah. What I will do is, let me just stop the recording. Okay. So what I will do is, I will continue. I'll go over the design more, and in the next class